Hello and welcome to another session of the My Solo 401k Financial, My Community Daily Webinar Series. Today's topic is Privatize Social Security, Solo 401k Impact, specifically the recent comments from the Treasury Secretary that the Trump accounts that are created by the Big Beautiful Bill are going to amount to a possible backdoor to privatize Social Security. So we want to talk about what that means for solo 401k plans. As always, the presentation is being provided for educational purposes only. It should not be construed as tax, legal, or investment advice, nor as a solicitation. When making an investment decision, please consult with your tax attorney and financial professional. Also, of course, if you do have topics or questions that you want to discuss, please chat over questions or topics, whether on this topic or an unrelated topic, as we really appreciate you joining, and we're happy to discuss any questions or topics you want to discuss as well. We can take those questions or topics after we go through some of these slides here. So let's lay out the agenda. So we're going to start out by just explaining what are Trump accounts, because these are new accounts that have been created under the Big Beautiful Bill. Why the Treasury Secretary says they're a backdoor to privatization of Social Security, and why solo 401k owners may gain an even bigger advantage. So what are Trump accounts? Well, as I mentioned, they're created under the recent Big Beautiful Bill legislation. Now, there's different elements to it. Some of the elements are getting more coverage than others. In my based on my review, it seems like the first provision listed here is the one that's getting the most coverage. The fact that there will be $1,000 seed funding for babies born 2025 to 2028. But in addition to that, these accounts, contributions can be made to these accounts up to $5,000 per year in tax-deferred contributions. So they're going to act similar to an IRA. Now, those contributions, and we've talked about these accounts also for our solo 401k community here, because these contributions could also be made by the employer of an employee who's has minor children. So you need to be under 18 years of age in order to be able to make contributions to these accounts. So we oftentimes receive questions from our clients asking if their children can participate in the solo 401k. And while their children cannot, if they're under age 21, based on these new Trump accounts, at least the self-employed business could make contributions to these accounts. And so that be part of that $5,000 per year in tax-deferred contributions. As we noted in a recent webinar, the employer could contribute up to $2,500. So in other words, the self-employed business could contribute up to $2,500 to the solo 401k owner's children. That's what it would allow. Now, there's more details in that webinar, so definitely take a look at that. And we're going to be keeping the community posted as more details come out about these Trump accounts generally. But we at least want to have start the conversation. So in short, these are new accounts that are for minors. If the baby is born between 2025 and 2028, the government's going to deposit $1,000 seed funding. On top of that, contributions can be made every year up until the child's 18. It's going to act like an IRA with withdrawals for retirement, education, home purchase. Now, at this point, it has been enacted, but it's not effective. It's not effective until next year. So there's going to be more guidance, more regulations that's anticipated. Again, stay tuned and we'll keep you posted. Now, so that's the context that the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, made a comment yesterday when he was speaking to essentially a conference where he was quoted as saying, in a way, these Trump accounts is a backdoor for privatizing Social Security, with the long-term idea that it could either be a supplement to or replacement of Social Security. At least that's the speculation. And the secretary was describing Social Security as a defined benefit plan, effectively, which from an economic perspective, there's definitely some truth to that. So there's some validity to that comment, in my view, because essentially the benefit is set, right? Social Security is funded via payroll taxes, and then the benefit is set based on the Social Security rules. Whereas these Trump accounts are a defined contribution model. So contributions are made, right? If you're a baby born between 2025 and 2028, the government's going to seed it with $1,000. And then on top of that, the parents, charitable organizations, the employer of the parents, which if you're self-employed is the same person, can also make contributions on top of that. So a possible future here is maybe an IRA for everyone, funded by the government and or funded by parents, employers, etc. And so essentially it becomes a defined contribution account that everyone has. And then the question becomes, okay, is this in addition to or instead of? Is it replacing? Is it essentially privatizing Social Security? Now, where could this go? As I mentioned, IRA for everyone could evolve into a universal government-seeded IRA accounts, might supplant or replace Social Security benefits, emphasis on self-directed retirement responsibility, right? So the individual now has this account, but they're in charge of investing it. They're in charge of whether or not they're going to take a withdrawal, things of that nature, as opposed to Social Security where there is no choice, right? It's very paternalistic. You just get yourself, there's ultimately a choice when you retire as far as when you're going to start receiving your benefits, but there's no choice in terms of your investments. You can't take an early withdrawal for building a house, like has been suggested might be an option with these Trump accounts. So how does this relate to solo 401k owners? Well, it's an opportunity, because if you have a solo 401k, you're already ahead of the curve, right? You already have a defined contribution plan. That's what a solo 401k plan is. And now you have money, more money that you might be able to roll over to the solo 401k. And then once it's in the solo 401k, so if it acts like an IRA, you might be able to roll it over to the solo 401k. And that's going to give you potential additional advantages, especially if you have a truly self-directed plan like the one offered by my solo 401k Financial, where you could do Roth conversions. You could take a 401k loan, so you could borrow from that account and then pay it back. You could invest in alternative investments. So with these Trump accounts, and we talked about this in the recent webinar, they're going to be limited to essentially investments that track the stock market. So the individual might be making contributions, or their parents, or the parents are making contributions, the employer, et cetera, all the way up until age 18. Then the individual, let's assume that they're self-employed, they roll it over to the solo 401k. Well, now they'll have more money that they could invest in alternative investments if they have a self-directed solo 401k plan like the one offered by my solo 401k Financial. So true alternative investments. Our plan allows for real estate investing, cryptocurrency, private placements, precious metals, etc. So the bottom line is the self-employed remain in the driver's seat. So let's compare the paths. So you have Social Security, that's the current state, which, as I mentioned, it's funded via the payroll tax, but there's no control, right? No control over the investments. There's no loans. There's no Roth. It's a future benefit. Trump accounts, government seeded plus contributions, limited control, right? Like, as I mentioned, per the rules, it needs to be invested in investments that track the stock market, like an index fund, for example. No loans, right? You can't borrow from the account. Solo 401k accounts are on the other end of the spectrum. So self-funded, right? The solo 401k owners making contributions, whether it's employee or employer or voluntary after tax, they've got full control, especially if you have a truly self-directed plan like the one offered by my solo 401k Financial, in terms of the investments, in terms of whether you take a 401k loan, in terms of whether you want to convert money from a pre-tax status to a Roth status. So you get the dual tax benefits, allowing the solo 401k owner to enjoy not only investment diversification, but also tax diversification. Potential risks and considerations, Social Security shortfall looming, right? There's a lot of discussion about that among the policymakers in the market. Market-based accounts shift retirement risk to individuals, right? With Social Security system, it's defined benefit. So as long as the Social Security system is solvent, the citizens who are participating will receive their benefit. Whereas if it's a defined contribution account, now the individual has more control, and maybe they'll take risks, or maybe they'll withdraw the money, or maybe they won't make contributions, etc. Political uncertainty, right? Of course, this could be repealed, rolled back, or it could be expanded. And I think that's what the secretary was hinting at as a possibility. Importance of flexibility and control with the solo 401k, right? We talked about that already up above. So why the self-employed are winning? Well, they already are managing retirement savings independently if you have a solo 401k. So if this does come to pass, either as a supplement or instead of Social Security, whether it's full-on privatization, those solo 401k owners are likely going to be well positioned, right? Because now here's just another retirement account that maybe they could roll over to their solo 401k or make contributions to. So where you can take advantage of the alternative investments, so more investment diversification, Roth conversions, tax diversification, loans, so accessing the money, whether it is for an emergency purpose or maybe building your or buying your home, etc. So that's great. So thank you so much. If you're finding this to be helpful, please like this video, share it with others that might find it to be helpful. That helps us get the word out. Please subscribe. We do go live every day. So if you subscribe, you'll get the notification, whether you're on X or Instagram or LinkedIn or YouTube. And then you can join, you can ask questions, you can just hear what we're sharing on that particular day. We also invite you to our community. We have over 30,000 members. You can email us at business@mysolo401k.net and we'll add you to the community, make it real easy. It's totally free to join. All are welcome. It's not just limited to our customers. So anyone that's interested in these topics, please feel free to join. We have forums, we have a library of videos and webinars. So there's a lot of great ways to learn and to share the knowledge on there. All right, well, it looks like that takes us to the end of the session for today. We'll give it just a moment to see if any more questions or see if any questions come in. Again, please like, please subscribe. We appreciate the engagement. Thank you so much. Take care.